Picture this, October 20th, 2021, Mashujaa Day. Kenyans across the nation breathe a collective sigh of relief. President Uhuru Kenyatta steps to the podium. His words echo through the airwaves, met with cheers. The nationwide dusk to dawn curfew is hereby vacated with immediate effect.
In the same regard, and by the authority vested in me as President, I hereby order and direct that the nationwide dusk to dawn curfew that has been in effect from the 27th of March 2020 be and is hereby vacated with immediate effect. Asante sana, God bless you, and God bless you. Asanteni sana.
Freedom at last. After a long, fearful months of lockdown, the nights belong to the people again. Unbeknownst to the president, deep within the imposing 10-foot walls of Kamiti maximum security prison, hailed relentlessly as East Africa's most secure prison, 3 men in cell number 6, condemned Block A, heard that announcement differently. For Musharraf Abdallah, Mohammed Ali, and Joseph Juma Odhiambo, it wasn't just the end of a curfew. It was the final piece of a plan which had been in motion for months now. The last piece falling perfectly into place for an audacious plan to escape the most secure prison in East Africa. Kamiti Maximum Prison. The name alone sends shivers. A fortress designed to hold Kenya's most dangerous. Its walls loom, not just brick and mortar, but symbols of impenetrable justice. Inside cell number 6, 3 men who embodied the very terror Kamiti was built to contain. Musharraf Abdallah, a certified Al-Shabaab militant. His crime? A chilling 2012 plot to storm Parliament building, Nairobi, strapped with explosives, an attempted assault on the heart of Kenyan democracy. That ambition earned him 22 years. Joining him later was Mohammed Ali. His hands, stained by the blood of Garissa University, not pulled the trigger himself that horrific day in April 2015, when 147 students were massacred, but convicted of being the critical communication link for the killers. His sentence, a staggering 41 years behind bars. And then came Joseph Juma Odhiambo, the Mumias man caught in 2020 trying to slip into Somalia via Mandera, an undesignated crossing point, a path well trodden by aspiring terrorists. This earned him a straight ticket to Kamiti, 15 years behind bars. 3 men, 3 long sentences, but they shared one burning conviction: injustice. They felt the courts had denied them their rightful justice, fair hearings denied. And with each passing month, another seed took root, watered by frustration and a growing sense of desperation, the seed to escape. Escaping Kamiti Maximum Prison is like a fantasy, something that can only happen in movies. But for these 3 men, they were tacticians, hardened by ideology and incarceration. Their first, most critical move was to identify the weakest link. They needed someone inside the system, and this someone was Warden X. We don't know his real name, even now. That is part of the enduring mystery. It wasn't just any card. Warden X supervised prisoners assigned to maintenance duties, are all giving him access to something precious: tools, hammers, chisels, wire cutters, the lifeblood of any prison break. More than that, he controlled movements, knew the shift patterns, the blind spots in the security web. He was their golden ticket. But how do you compromise a prison warden? Money. And a Picard connected to the shadowy networks outside had access to it. Warden X loyalty had a price, and it was paid. Now they had an insider, but they needed cover. Ingeniously, they played the system. They filed a formal complaint. Their cell was freezing, a legitimate grievance in the spirit of prison reform. The authorities, perhaps wanting to avoid bad press, complied. They were issued extra blankets. But for these terrorists, the blankets was not for warmth, but for climbing. These blankets were destined to become ladders and ropes. With Warden X on their side, the tools flowed into Cell 6 like contraband: magic, chisels, razor blades, scissors, metal hooks, even bars of soap, and reams of paper. The plan was meticulous, almost absurdly simple in its components, yet breathtakingly bold in execution. Night after night, when everyone in the prison was deeply asleep, for them it was an opportunity to actualize their plan, the plan to escape the walls of Kamiti maximum prison. Silently, they covered the growing hole that they had dug with paper, a makeshift camouflage invisible to the normal eyes. The broomsticks were not for sweeping, they were used to measure the daunting height of the inner perimeter walls. Measurements fed into the construction of their blanket ladder, cut with smuggled scissors, woven with smuggled wires, and strengthened by their desperation. When all their escape plan was done, they were prepared. But two things held them back: fear, the sheer gut-wrenching risk of it all, and the curfew. President Uhuru had lifted the lockdown within communities, but Kamiti remained locked down tight. Venturing out past curfew meant instant police attention. They needed darkness, but not that kind of darkness. The Mashujaa Day announcement solved one problem. The streets were free again, but the fear that lingered until a fellow inmate walked freely, a Kilfa Bwire, released but then vanished, plucked off the streets, they believed by the terror unit. To the men in Cell 6, it was a stark, terrifying message. Your sentence doesn't end at the gate. We are waiting. Justice wasn't just delayed, it was potentially terminal. That fear became a resolve. Escape wasn't just a desire anymore, it was a survival. The point of no return had been crossed. November 15, 2021. The date was chosen with cold precision. Intelligence, fed by Warden X, revealed a critical vulnerability. The officers on duty that night were less vigilant, and some of Kamiti's CCTV cameras, the electronic eye meant to never blink, were malfunctioning, were not working, broken and repaired, a glaring hole in the most secure facade. They even arranged their getaway, a Toyota Probox waiting in the shadows outside the staff quarters perimeter. Its destination, Machakos County, a stepping stone. From there, another vehicle would pick them up and take them to their ultimate sanctuary, the chaotic hinterlands of Somalia, Al-Shabaab's heartland. On the midnight of November 15th, Kamiti was asleep. The word comes, likely via a silent signal from Warden X. The duty officers had visited the canteen to quench their thirsty throats. The moment was now. And in the oppressive darkness of Cell 6, three figures moved like ghosts. The paper camouflage peeled away. The hole in the wall, months of patience, secret labor, was wide open. One by one, they squeezed through the rough concrete opening, marching not into freedom, but into the deadly no man's land. Inside the prison's main wall, the cold night air greeted them. Freedom was still layers of security away. Using the shadows as their cloak, they navigated the prison grounds. Every rustle, every footfall sounded like a thunderclap in their ears. Their target, the wall separating the main prison compound from the staff quarters, less imposing, perhaps, than the outer walls, but still a formidable barrier. This is where their blanket ladder came into play. They tied the blanket into the wall and used it to cross to the other side, into the staff quarter area. They were outside Kamiti. And almost immediately, headlights cut through the darkness, the Probox engine idling, a silent promise. They piled in, the doors slammed, the doors were closed, and in few minutes, they were speeding through the free Nairobi night. Curfew lifted just for them. And their destination, Machakos. Arrival time, 3:30 a.m. Elation, maybe, but mostly sheer adrenalized terror. And then, something happened. The second car, the vital link to Somalia, the one supposed to be waiting for them in Machakos, wasn't there. Radio silence, a catastrophic break in the chain. Stranded, exposed, dawn was approaching, and their plan was falling apart. Their meticulous plan escape was crumbling into panic. Desperate, they did the only one thing left. They boarded a public matatu, hoping to vanish into the anonymity of the early morning, blending with other passengers. But their luck finally ran out. Near Kitui, fate in the form of an alert civilian intervened. Walking along a road, looking suspiciously out of place, the civilian saw them, recognized the fear, and recognized the faces from the news. Or simply, he just sensed that something was deeply wrong. He quickly alerted the authorities. The recapture was swift. The Probox driver arrested the three escapees back in shackles, returned to Kamiti under heavier guard than they had ever known. Judged anew. The narrative shifted. Terrorists caught. Security labs plagued. But in the following trial, the three men dropped a bombshell that echoed far louder than their capture. They pointed fingers, not just at the low-level cults, paraded as scapegoats, but directly at the missing piece, Warden X. He was the key, they essentially said. He gave us the tools. He knew everything. And the surprising thing, they claimed the specific tools Warden X had smuggled in, the chisel, the plates, the hooks, crucial to the entire operation, were mysteriously absent from the evidence list, conveniently omitted. So here we are, the story of Great Kamiti escape. Three terrorists walk out of East Africa's most secure prison. They exploited the curfew lift, used blankets as ladders, chiseled through walls with soap and paper camouflage, and were ultimately undone by a vigilant civilian. It is a story of audacity and shocking systemic failure, but it's also a story with a lot of questions. A shadowy figure, Warden X. Who was he? Where is he? Was he acting alone? How deep did the compromise go? And why were those specific tools, the tools that made it all possible, seemingly vanished from the record? The walls of Kamiti still stands, 10 feet tall, imposing, but this escape opened a different kind of breach, a breach of trust, a breach in the myth of absolute security. It exposed the terrifying truth that the most sophisticated walls are only as strong as the humans paid to guard them. Three men saw the crack, found the key, and almost slipped into the night. They were caught, yes, but the cost of Warden X, the unanswered question about the missing evidence, the lingering doubt about how many eyes were really closed that night. Those still linger, like a cold draft whistling through the chiseled hold in cell number 6. A chilling reminder that sometimes the most dangerous escape artist isn't the conflict, it is the truth.